Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the Arise to Success show. In this show, we aim to highlight inspiring individuals and their journeys to success. I'm your host in this show. My name is Gehad. Throughout this show, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them on 0779 481822. We have a great guest today whom I personally connected with in the past, and we had several conversations. Maylene is a brand strategist and designer, and she'll be sharing with us how she started her first business, puppetry, from scratch when she was a new mom, besides the challenges and wins. Maylene then sold this business and now back to doing branding to help more Muslim small businesses shine as the go-to. But the big goal has always been the same for her, which is to inspire new generations of young Muslims to feel a sense of belonging and to feel proud to be visible Muslims and who continue to do good and to uplift the Ummah. Maylene, it's a great pleasure to have you with us today, and thank you for accepting my invite to be a guest on the show today. I love your
Thank
goal.
you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And you know the goal that you have, I love that goal, and mashallah, you like to inspire the younger generation, which is also an aim of this show, which is to bring in inspiring individuals like yourselves to share their success stories so that we can learn from them as well. So perhaps maybe you firstly can tell us more about you and what you do before we talk about your first business and the journey behind it.
Sure. So, Assalamualaikum, everyone. So I'm May, and I'm the brand strategist and designer at Studio Nisa. And basically, what I help, or who I help rather, are visionary Muslim small businesses, and I help them to be recognized, remembered, and raved about as the go-to in their niche with a captivating brand. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Excuse
The
me.
introduction. Can you tell us more about the branding that you do as well? Because I hear about so many different things. Like there is another guest that will be coming in the show in the next few weeks, who's a social media and paid ads strategist. So when I
Mm.
hear brand strategist and designer and social media, I get confused. What is what? So can you
Yeah,
tell
I
us
know.
what
I'm
you do?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you're confused, and you're not alone, Jihad. So
Mm,
basically, what I like to say is, I think people, when they think about showing, well, when you have a small business, you want to be visible, isn't it? You want to get out there and you want to be connecting with the right people, the right kind of your dream clients and customers, so that they will um, buy from you and work with you, and inshallah, you're able to help them as well get to where they want to get to. And
mm,
all that visibility and authority, etc. How I like to see it is, people usually think, I think this is something that people usually make this mistake of thinking that, okay, I want to be out there, I want people to know about me. They think marketing, but what it is that before you even go into marketing, you should really think about your brand, and that is how people perceive you as a
mm,
business, and whether they see you as the solution to the problem, or whether they see you as the person or the company that can help them to achieve what they want to achieve in their business. So it is all about that perception, about the image of whether your brand fits into their lifestyle as well.
mm,
Whether they have that sense of belonging and basically, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the know, like, trust factor. It is
mm,
getting them to know you, to like you, to trust you, and you're top of their minds whenever they need to get something from someone like you. And then what marketing does is take that essence of you, what you that perception of you, and actually help you to get that further. So for example, it could be a message, it could be a tagline. For example, I'm just thinking, like with Apple, think different. Now,
mm,
if that is a whole kind of brand building and a messaging behind it, and then obviously it kind of fits in with all their values and how they do things. And but then what then you have is the marketing side, which is your advertisements, whether that's Facebook ads, Google ads, whether that's influencer marketing. You want them to say the same thing over and over again. So if everyone's repeating the same thing, everyone's got the same kind of vibes from you as a brand, then that becomes stronger. Otherwise, it could be marketing and you could be getting eyeballs on you. But then there's no clear message, there's no clear differentiation between you and someone else in your industry, then what happens is they might just forget about you after a while, or they think about your industry, but they don't actually think about you specifically. And
Mm,
that's not what you want either. So the journey I see is like branding is really important in getting that foundation. It's like building a house, that foundation, and then or the car.
mm,
And then that's the car itself, and then you have marketing, which is basically like the petrol or the electricity that drives your car and gets you from point A to point B. Does that help to kind of make sense?
yeah, yeah, no, that's a really good. I really like the what you use there to kind of make it easy to understand. So, does branding include the marketing as well, or just the actual branding that you just talked
Actual
about?
branding. So some of the things that we look into in branding would be you have the kind of like the visual, which
Mm,
is actually no. Let's think about it this way. Another analogy I like to use is
mm,
you think about when you're walking down the street and you smell something, this fragrance, and you think, oh yeah, and you recognize it. It might be
mm,
Joe Malone, it might be, I don't know, Calvin Klein,
yeah,
whichever you love, right? Or Suna Mask.
yeah.
And you smell it in it conjures up some kind of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, let me ask you, Jihad, do you have a favorite scent?
I like oud.
Oud. Okay, so if you
Yeah,
smell it, does it take you somewhere? Does it kind of remind you of a particular memory or particular place?
yeah. Particular places, particular memories. Yes.
Precisely. Okay, so this is what you want a brand to do. You want
Right.
it to conjure up those emotions and things like yeah, it's kind of conjuring up those emotions, that feeling, and you want people to, when they see your brand, when they interact with your brand, when they think about your brand, they have that same emotional reaction, because that's how you're memorable.
Mm,
And so what I like to say is, with branding, it is from it's the whole process of, okay, I'm going to create, or rather, your product, your offer, is the actual fragrance. But before all that, before you make that, you would have known, number one, clarity. So I call it the 4 C's. Clarity. Why are you doing this? Who are you doing this for?
mm,
And then the next C is the core. Like what are the notes, all the fragrances that you're going to put into this bottle that makes up this fragrance? It's like the essence. And
mm,
then you have and then that's also like the values, what that's your values, what you stand for, what you're trying to do. And then you have the crafting, which is the bottle itself, how are you packaging that. and
mm,
and that's kind of like that's what we talk about, the look and feel, your like whether if your product business, obviously packaging, but
mm,
then even if it is something like your what do you call that, even if you're a coach, for example, it's
mm,
what does that, what's your offer look like, how do you sell it to people, what kind of analogy do you use. And then you have the conjuring part, which is, like we said, like what kind of emotions do you want people to feel when they think
mm,
about your brand. So yeah, so basically it's all, branding is all that, in terms of from
yeah.
knowing why you're doing what you're doing, all the way to what you're trying to get people to feel. And that comes through both verbal and non-verbal, like the messaging,
Mm.
the experience, everything. So it's actually a lot bigger than what most people think.
And when you think about business, I wouldn't have thought that it's all of these as the examples that you've given, the car and the perfume and all of that. So it's quite interesting because it seems like you go really in depth of it, which kind of what I can relate to is more like you help it to stand out.
Precisely. I mean, anyone can get out there with a business, with a brand,
Mm,
and you don't. It's good to know all this, because really you want to work to becoming a memorable brand. You want to work towards becoming known for that
mm,
thing that you're known for, so that you're the go-to. Because it is
mm,
all, when you're running a business, it is about making that sales, being, having that recognition and having people trust you as the go-to, basically.
mm,
And yes, you do need to stand out when it's such a
mm,
crowded marketplace. And with social media as well, social media marketing is kind of free, right? Like you're getting, it's such a, I mean, I love that you can just very easily market yourself nowadays. Whereas
mm,
before, there's newspaper ads and TV ads, and it's so much more of a faff to kind of get everything together. Now you can do it, just through social media. But it
mm,
is a very crowded marketplace. People are bombarded by messages every day. How do you
mm,
stand out? How do you shine to them as like, hey, I'm the person to go to, I'm the brand to go to be able to help you take you from A to Z, for example.
Mm. Quite interesting. And imagine if we have two businesses selling,
Mm.
similar service or similar products, or maybe the same things. Does branding help one of them to stand out more than the, or if they both using branding, how does it make each one of them stand out? Do they use different kind of branding?
Yeah, so definitely. This is funny you asked me that, because I remember I was in a taxi once going home from a networking event, and I passed by these two kebab shops,
Mm,
both probably selling exactly the same thing, right?
yeah.
But one was branded and the other wasn't. One
Mm,
was, you might know the brand, it's called Lebab. This is in Shoreditch. So Lebab, and I
right.
think the vibes is they are like catering to this like young hip crowd. They've got this kind of like the graphics, the fonts, the colors, the lighting. They all suggest that, and even the menu has got a little bit of a flair to it. And then
Mm,
next to it was like, your regular kebab shop, and it says best kebab, and
mm,
it was just like this like bright fluorescent lighting. There was, the pictures were like, I don't know, for maybe 10 years old or something, and they're
mm,
like, and you can see like, okay, brandings obviously help people to see like, this is me, because when people use brands,
mm,
that there is this, they take on this sense of belonging, and you're helping people find their belonging as well. They want to be associated with this brand. They don't want to be associated with that other brand. I mean, I know
mm.
sometimes it's not always that way, because I know like my husband would be like, I don't care, I just go for like the best kebab, doesn't matter what the branding is like. But
Yeah.
the thing is, there are studies, there's stats to show that when you invest in design, you're actually getting a lot more back per
Mm,
dollar on the returns, on like, because people would then associate what you have with the quality of the product that they're getting. So it is important to do that, and this is the reason why really big brands are investing in their branding all the time, and always updating. Like Coca-Cola has always kind of
mm,
kept up to date with that, and sometimes it's just very slight tweaks, but it is those important changes to keep themselves top of mind for
mm.
people. And but the thing is, it doesn't have to be only for big brands and big businesses. Small brands, small businesses can do the same as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so it's quite interesting when you said Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, the first thing that came to my mind is the colors black and red, and when I think about Asda, for example, the green color. So is the color and the logo and all of that part of branding and part of the memories that you said that we would always associate it with specific memory or specific places or colors and so on. Is that part of branding as well? Is it?
Yeah, I would say definitely colors would play a big role as well. I mean, I know people sometimes can't really get into the color psychology,
Mm,
but what I like to also be aware of is someone might say, oh, yeah, it's good for a bank to have blue because it's obviously saying, like trust and
mm,
security, etc. But then think about it, every bank would use blue, and then where are you standing out? So I
yeah.
like to think about it like, look at it this way,
Mm,
see what other brands are doing, see what colors obviously work in terms of the associations that it gives, but then add your own twist to it. So,
mm,
like Starling, I think it's Starling, they
mm,
have they don't have blue, they have a deep purple, which is kind of a little bit different from blue. So it does still have that deep color, still
mm,
the same kind of spectrum that would instill that trust, but then there's something a bit different about them. And like for someone who really doesn't want to go with the boring bank,
mm,
they would appreciate that. Like they
mm,
might be thinking, well, I'm different. I'm this kind of person
mm,
who I want to go with to say like, oh, I use Starling or
mm,
I mean,
mm.
I know it's just a bank, but when
Yeah,
you went for that card, I don't know. For me, when I use my Monzo card and this bright fluorescent orange card comes out, I'm like, woohoo, like I do love my Monzo card, and
yeah,
kind of suggests the kind of person you are in a way.
yeah.
And yeah, so there's a lot that goes on actually. And I think when it comes to color, yes, it plays an important role. Always bring in your own twist while keeping in mind what other people are doing. One thing I would say, like I would really pay kind of attention to when it comes to color psychology, definitely, is food,
Mm,
because
mm,
you can't use orange for a grape flavor, for example. Or
mm,
there are certain things like that people are just so used to, that is kind of inbuilt in our psychology about what
mm,
what color tastes like what, that too different
Yeah.
and it just feels wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's clear. Thank you for that. And you also mentioned earlier that I wanted to come back to about the social media marketing that is free now, that we can make use of it, and so on.
Mm,
Now, um, some people when they try to use that marketing, they don't get anywhere with it. So, is there, for example, is it worth investing in, social media ads? And again, does that come under branding or does that come under something else? And because it feels like sometimes, speaking about myself as well, when I
mm,
went to Instagram at the start, no clients from Instagram. So sometimes I feel
mm,
like, it depends on which social media you use, depending on your target audience. But at the same
mm.
time, does that come under branding? Does that come under something else where people should invest in more ads? What's your feedback?
Yeah, so it's not exactly branding, but they do kind of, there's overlaps
Mm,
and they do kind of work very closely together. Like I would always say that you need both branding and marketing. But like as I mentioned earlier, you could be doing the marketing, but if your messaging, for example, wasn't right and you were
yeah.
not connecting with the right audience, or you're not using for example, you weren't using the right language, or perhaps when marketing branding, both what's really important is you really know your audience and what
Mm,
you have to offer and how what you're offering is going to transform their lives.
mm,
So if you're not getting that across in
mm,
the right language that's simple to understand,
yeah.
then sometimes that's where the results are not coming, because whoever is following you, for example, doesn't resonate with what you have to say, or they don't see that that is something they need right now. Uh,
Mm,
and yeah, so like with marketing, that there obviously are other things involved as well. Like, okay, so where are your kind of ideal clients or
mm,
customers, for example, hanging out?
mm,
And you might be, for example, on a LinkedIn when you should be on Instagram, or you should be on, or maybe TikTok is where the people are at, etc. And it's so with marketing, the marketing part is about, okay, where are the opportunities where you can get your messaging, get your brand out there. But
right.
before doing that, you need to know who you are, what you stand for, who
Mm,
resonates with what you stand for, and like, you're basically trying to attract the right audience and showing that what they are going through, and that you have the solution for them. um
mm,
yeah, but marketing is, there's a lot more to it, and
mm,
it's there's, like I said, there's parts that overlaps a little, but then
yeah.
you've got there's other things like, the marketing drives. There might be some kind of experiential activation campaigns and etc.
Mm,
That falls under very specifically marketing. And I think funnels and things like that also are under
mm,
marketing. So
yeah.
there's a whole different side to
Mm,
it.
yeah.
And when you go to an agency, like some agencies will do everything, but
Mm,
then you would probably also find you have branding and then you have marketing that are kind of separate, but they work together. Does that kind
yeah.
of
Yeah, no, and it makes me feel as well that branding is more of the foundation before the marketing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because that if you don't have your message right, then you're not really marketing to the right audience.
yeah, and you might not be remembered
Mm,
for what it is that you do, because there's not a
mm,
strong enough kind of identity,
mm,
and message behind all that marketing efforts.
mm. Quite interesting. There's quite a lot to business, isn't it? It's not just, starting a
Yeah,
business and just, selling.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, thank you for sharing that, which makes it a lot
No worries.
clearer. And just to remind the
Mm.
listeners, and if anybody joined us now, we have Maylene on the show today, who's a brand strategist and designer. And she will be sharing also with us how she started her first business from scratch when she was a new mom, besides the challenges and wins. And after selling the business, May is now back to doing branding to help more Muslim small businesses shine as the go to. But the big goal has always been the same for her, which is to inspire new generations of young Muslims to feel a sense of belonging and to feel proud to be visible Muslims who continue to do good and to uplift the Ummah. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send those on 07779 481822. So, Maylene, as a new mom and starting a business, could you tell us about that journey with your first business and why you sold it?
Why did I sell it, did you say?
Yeah, if you tell us first your
Yeah.
journey starting.
Okay, sure. So basically, I was working in like the branding industry, in like this top agencies globally for about, I think by that time it was maybe about 10 to 15 years. And then obviously I had my first child. And so I was on maternity leave, got bored. I needed a creative outlet. And then I think what it was as I was decorating my daughter's room and seeing all this really cute stuff, I'm like, I can do that myself. I'm a designer, I don't have to buy this. So it started off being that I was designing my own things, trying to find out where I can get it printed. And then at some point, I'm like, well, if these people are selling it, why can't I sell it too? Because I can do it. So it was more like a hobby at that time, just trying to see what happens, really. And I, and then I think I got quite a few sales on. This was on Etsy at first, because that's where people go to get like their creative things, right? So started off there. But I think at one point, when it was time for me to teach my children, or when I was starting to think about, okay, how do I get my children to love Islam? That's when I started to think, actually, I can't find anything out there. And I've always loved that whole kind of Scandinavian aesthetics, that kind of a little bit minimalist. I really didn't like those very garish, bright colors and that cheap tat out there. Like, obviously being a designer, there's a certain aesthetic that I look for. And so I couldn't find that for Islamic, any kind of child Islamic products, decor, etc. So I decided to do my own. So I think I started off with a few of my favorite ayats and then put it out there. And I remember selling like one for £10, and then people bought it, and then suddenly I found that a lot of people actually wanted it. And it kind of just continued, and then I, along the way I met different people who are creative, and somehow it also turned into products. So one of the things that really did really well was my Allah is with you wherever you are cloud hanging. It started off being paper cardboard because my friend could cut it for me, and then it became this wooden piece, and that was one of the iconic puppetry pieces that were being sold at that time. And yeah, it kind of just grew into like prayer mats, like kids prayer mats, etc. Some of the projects took longer than others, but alhamdulillah, like it was amazing finding a whole community of like other Muslim moms who actually wanted to inspire their children, but also they were, they wanted it to look stylish as well. They wanted it to fit in their home and fit in with their aesthetics. But I think what happened, like, so this went on for almost 7 years. And it was going well, alhamdulillah, everything was going well. I had some amazing collaborations with other brands with like the same values and ethos. But what happened was, after my second child, I realized that I started the business so that I could have a creative outlet, could teach my children, be kind of connected to my deen and to the ummah, while the most important thing was being able to spend time with my children. But I wasn't. I remember like when I had my son, who's the second one, like he was sleeping in the cot next to me. I'll be packing orders. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm supposed to be spending time with my kids. And then it got to a point where, I sometimes had to neglect my kids. I'd ignore them so that I could get orders out. And it wasn't sustainable. And we know that it has to be, right? And I kept looking at scaling up. But then I think one day I was speaking to a business coach, and she said, like, okay, like, where do you want to take this business? Like, what matters for you? And it worked out that, for me to take it where I want it to be, like, I would have this number of people on my team, I would be working this number of hours, and it wasn't, at that time, it didn't feel like it was fitting in with my lifestyle, my young family. And that's when I decided, okay, I think it's time for me to pivot. Also, because it happened that at that very time, I was also in this group of other amazing women entrepreneurs, Muslim women in business, and they all had their own small businesses, and they were all asking questions about branding. And I realized that, hey, actually, I could answer these questions, and I was able to help them. And that's where Studio No Anisa was slowly getting formed in a way. And I think there was a bit of a transition when I was trying to sell the company, or preparing to sell it, and actually starting my own thing. So when I was more or less established with Studio Nornis, or I've got it off the ground, that's when I thought, okay, I can't run two businesses at the same time now. Definitely not. And I finally found someone who could take over the business. And that's when I decided to, let it go. It took me a while. It took me 2 years to finally let it go. I said I would sell it, but I couldn't. I realized how attached I was to it. Because it's like my baby, it came at the same time as my daughter.
Yeah, May will continue this conversation after the break because we'll be having a break very shortly. So just to remind the listeners, this is Inspire FM Luton on 105.1. We'll begin for a short break, so please don't go away. Stay tuned. We have a lot to discuss after the break with May, who's a brand strategist and designer. So we'll go for a few minutes break, May, and we'll be back. So stay tuned, everyone.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum, it's Hamera, lifestyle blogger and lawyer from Bristol. Continue to listen to Inspire FM 105.1.
You don't have to go to Pakistan to enjoy the finest Asian food. Enjoy a great choice of authentic cuisine at Little Lahore Tandoori Restaurant and Takeaway in Dunstable. With mouth-watering chicken, lamb, veg and fish dishes, Chersi Karahi, Nihari, mixed grill, platters and for so much more, the Little Lahore Restaurant also has a separate hall for private parties for up to 50 people at 2 Nicholas Way, LU6 1TD. Or order via Deliveroo, Uber Eats or Just Eat. We also provide external catering. For more information, call 01582 353 983. That's Little Lahore for the finest Pakistani cuisine.
Attention all electricians, builders and DIY enthusiasts. Capital Electrical Wholesalers are now open in Luton. It's a fully stocked branch with experienced staff on hand to help with all your electrical needs. With branches also in Greenford, Tottenham, Richmond and Ashton. Capital Electrical Wholesalers only stock the biggest names, including JCC, Saxby, Knightsbridge, Hamilton, MK, Wilex, Hager, Aco Smoke Alarms and many more. That's Capital Electrical at Unit M, Kingsway Industrial Estate. Call 01582 801122.
For expert legal advice and support, talk with Luton's leading solicitors, Hannah Solicitors. We specialise in conveyancing, wills and probate, family law, immigration and personal injury, legal matters that matter to you. Our experienced legal team are here to help you through every step of the way. Call 01582 329 069. That's 01582 329 069 or click on hannahsolicitors.co.uk. Hannah Solicitors, professional advice with a tailored approach.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من سمت نجا. He who remains silent is successful.
Gehad Pharmacy, your one-stop health and beauty pharmacy in Luton, stockist of over 8,000 health and beauty products. At Gehad Pharmacy, we offer a range of services, including health advice and repeat prescriptions for collection and delivery to your home. We also offer a Hajj and Umrah vaccination. Come in and see us and ask about our stop smoking service. We're open 7 days a week till late, including bank holidays. Gehad Pharmacy, 157A Biscot Road, Luton. Call 457709.
Losing a loved one, especially a mother or a father, could mean losing access to safety, education and shelter. We here at Crisis Aid believe that children in the world deserve a better chance at life. Your small donation can influence a big change. Donate today. www.crisisaid.org.uk/orphan fund or call our donations line 0333 305 5000.
Head over to inspirefm.org to check out our new website. Missed a show or want to listen back to an old one? Want to know about upcoming schedules or maybe keep up to date with events going on? Don't worry, it can be found right here on www.inspirefm.org. As well as that, have a question, query or comment, find the contact details right here and become part of your community radio station. For the community, by the community.
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 6:30.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back everyone. This is the Arise to Success show. We have May, who is a brand strategist and designer, and she is sharing with us today how she started her first business, puppetry, from scratch when she was a new mom, besides the challenges and wins. After selling this business, May is now back to doing branding to help more Muslim small businesses shine as their go-to, but the big goal has always been the same for her, which is to inspire new generations of young Muslims to feel a sense of belonging and to feel proud to be visible Muslims who want to continue to do good and to uplift to the Ummah. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them on 0779 481822. So maybe before the break, we were talking about more of what is branding to help us to understand. I mean, myself, that has been very useful. So Jazakallah khair for sharing and explaining what branding is and how it differs from marketing and all the other aspects that relate to business. And we just started also talking about your first business and how you started this as a new mom, and then how it developed and we got to selling it. And you said that you were quite attached to it. And that's normal for us if we do something that we love, right? We become very attached to it. And then we had to go for a break. So could you tell us more about how you managed to detach? Because that's something that is quite difficult to do. And also, if we can get into the wins and struggles that you had with the business as well.
Yeah. So it's, I don't know, some people might think this is very woo-woo, but someone suggested I do some cord cutting meditation.
Okay.
And I actually did that with puppetry because I felt like, on one hand, I was saying I need to sell the business because it's not, I felt like, if I hung on to it, I'm not going to do a lot of good to it because I didn't have the capacity to put my energy into it, to do the things in it that would help it to grow. And I was just hanging on to it for the sake of hanging on to it. And I knew that there would be someone else who could take it to new heights, new levels, places I wanted it to go without that I couldn't do by myself, because I felt like I didn't have at that time, I felt like I didn't have the support of anyone really. Like, it was a very lonely journey. I think a lot of small businesses that I've spoken to feel the same, where it feels like a lonely journey. Although, I also want to say you don't have to. There's so many wonderful Muslim small businesses out there. And, it's because of the people that I've been hanging out with that has given me that support that I've been able to keep going. And I mean, I have to say, like, during, towards the last few years when I was going to sell the business, like, there were many times I kind of wanted to give up because I didn't have the time or energy for it. And how do I put it? Yeah, and what I've noticed was I keep taking breaks as well to just to recover, because like a lot of businesses or Muslim businesses probably will see that, you have the push, which is during Ramadan, right? And then after that, after Eid, it's like, oh gosh, like you just have to take a break because it was just so much to handle. So there was a lot of that, like it was like on and off and on and off, and it was like, no, this is not how I want to run my business. And so, yeah, one of the challenges is that, like, feeling lonely, but alhamdulillah, there's been so many wonderful networks of people that have been able to kind of had the support to keep going. And then I think it was one of the bigger challenges I had was actually when I have ideas. There's so many ideas, and I hear this a lot as well. There's so many ideas, like you don't know which one to start with, which one to get out there, or even sometimes how to get those ideas into fruition, in like taking it from concept to finish. For as a product business, the biggest thing was trying to find a manufacturer. And I remember when I was like, one of my favorite products that I created and sold was the kids prayer mats, because at that time when I started it, there wasn't really anyone else in the market who was doing something like that. And what it was like, I had done all these sketches, but finding the right people to print it, to make it, to do it at a good price so that I could sell it for profit was really hard. And and it took me 2 years. And then I think what made it worse was when I finally got to doing that. I remember, what was it? Yeah, there was a point when I was trying to sell it to a stockist, like a well-known stockist had wanted to stock it, and that was amazing news, right? But then she couldn't shift it, and then she told me, oh, really, your prayer mat should be, like £15, because all the other kids' prayer mats out there are £15, and it cost £20 to create each mat.
Wow.
And after all the hard work, after all the blood, sweat, and tears, it was like a punch to the gut, because I'm like, well, this is not like all the other kids' prayer mats, because they are, very cheaply made and smaller. They're like, when I think a lot of small businesses might have gone through that. It's like you put in all your heart and soul, and then someone tells you, well, it's not worth this is not worth it. So I had that, but then I think, so that kind of set me back a little bit. But I think what I later realized when I actually studied analyzed the whole situation, was that it's not because my product was bad. I had the customers for it. I sold out on my prayer mats, but and this is why branding is important. Our target audience were very different to begin with. Also, both of us were in the UK, and so like the kind of people that she had to her, the kind of customer base that she has, they're not the kind of audience that I have. So it's just different. We're looking for different things, and so like for me, that was one of the reasons. And then what I also found was that people who, like, my audience would have followed me for a long time, and they knew what I could offer, so I had built up reputation and trust, and therefore people were more ready to buy from me, because there was all this other work around, like that whole brand building behind it. And then what I later did as well was I actually, rather than just selling a prayer mat, I kind of made it into, okay, how could we put more value into it? And then it was actually putting in more of a, let's solve someone's problem. And for a lot of moms, it was like they want to help to raise good Muslims. They want their children to pray. And so I was marketing it then, or packaging it up as like like your first prayer mat in a way. It's getting people to, or not getting people, getting children to start to understand, or to be introduced to Allah, to the concept of zikr even. So like I had this promo video which was all about, this is like a safe space for a child to go and turn to Allah, or just to, it's a place for, for tummy time, or for a little kid to play imam. And it was bringing in more of those kind of emotions, like I mentioned to you before. It's like conjuring up those emotions. It's about solving a problem for somebody, but then showing how you're solving that problem. And alhamdulillah, when I did that, my sales was even better, because people see it like, okay, I've got this whole package. Like there was a salah coloring chart. I created this like salah tree where all the leaves are like the different prayers of the day. And then if you do sunnah prayers, you get to color in an apple. And you could color, like the leaves could be either green or brown or yellow, depending on how well you did in your salah. But it helps you to get an idea. It helps you to track, but also helps you get an idea of what, like how your salah is like. And I think it was like basically, selling this whole package. You got this little tote bag that can bring your prayer mat around. There was like a tasbih for kids. And the whole look and feel was obviously a very poppetry look and feel. So it made it more appealing for somebody to buy then, because you're not just buying a product, you're buying how do I put it, you're buying like a solution in a way.
Yeah.
So then, yes, going back to, okay, it's not because my product was only worth £15. It's just that you need to know where you're adding value, and to be able to speak to the right people about it, and people will pay. Because I've had my products, the cloud I was telling you about, I had so many companies copying it and selling it for like so cheap online, and this was, if not, they weren't even Muslim companies.
Oh, wow.
And it was other small Muslim companies to sell. And it was like, I mean, at first it was infuriating, but then at the same time, it's like, actually, I noticed that people were still willing to come and buy from me and buy the original, because they supported the brand. And again, I'm bringing it back to, this is why brand building is important because you have got the loyalty of your customers and know that they are going to get quality from you each time, or that buying from you makes them feel a certain way and they just feel happy to be paying a little bit extra for the experience, and to know that they have supported the small business or whatever that is. So yeah, so those were like my initial challenges. Was that was the copying, there was the people maybe not appreciating what has gone into like creating those products and how much the value was. But the wins was that, that I did have an amazing community of customers who really supported what I was trying to do beyond just products. And were happy to support me. So like I'm eternally grateful to them, because they helped me learn and become a better Muslim just by how they were as well.
That's amazing. And mashallah, you shared really good information there. And it just making me think as well that not because somebody commented on our products or services, whatever we're doing, in a negative way, we underestimate ourselves and we take that on board.
Yeah.
Find yourself, in the right place. And as you did, mashallah, you found yourself with the right community, with the right customers who bought from you. And not necessarily that, this person meant it in a negative way, but
no, I don't think so.
Exactly, our audience was very different. So kind of like, to make sure that you don't stick to one single view, or just take on what everybody's saying, but to find yourself in the right place is quite important. So thank you for sharing that. And it's also making me think, does branding change from time to time? So say, for example, the time when you were selling to the children, mentality changes, things change very time, and we are in a time where things are changing very quickly. So I'm wondering here, do we need to invest in branding several times, or is it just once as the foundation, or do we need to constantly change it?
I wouldn't say it's like a huge change. I mean, definitely it is important to invest in branding if you're able to, or at least consider it. And like you said, it's building that foundation. But just as you've built a foundation, you've built a house, you've got all your rooms. Sometimes, you might feel like, okay, maybe there's something that happened in your life, for example, you've welcomed more children, and you think, actually, I need a bit of an update because maybe I've changed as a person. I've changed in terms of my needs. I'm a mum now, and I need things in certain places in the home, like you want kid-friendly spaces, or like maybe you need to have like a room that's got like a, how do I call it, that you can escape to have some calm. And it's the same thing with branding, like you have the foundation built, you probably wouldn't change as a person, and what you're trying to do, like what you're trying to do through your business, probably the core essence of it wouldn't have changed. But it's just the way that you approach it, the way that you present yourself, obviously would need an update once in a while, because even like customers might change. You might realize, oh, I've got a whole new generation of, maybe, I don't know, what is it? Like I can't remember what they call it. Like it's even younger than the millennials and the Gen Z. It's like a mix or something. And you have different generations coming out with different needs, they're savvy about different things. And you might notice I'm starting to appeal to a very different group of people. And then obviously your messaging, your design, the way you present yourself would change. I mean, if you look at like some of the luxury brands, like Chanel, I remember like Chanel used to be this whole like very chic and black and white, very elegant. And then like somehow along the years, I remember going back to it, and I saw this ads and that ad campaigns. The whole brand itself hasn't changed. Like the branding itself hasn't changed. You still get that black and white and that, what it stands for, but the campaigns have changed a bit in terms of there's a little bit more edginess to it. There's, the models, there's like some younger models, like some younger kind of like newer influencers that you might be kind of familiar with, and just the attitude also has changed. But it's not like a huge departure from where they were. It's just an evolved version, and that makes it exciting as well. But it is about looking at, if you're always trying to serve your audience, and that is the main point, right? If you're always trying to serve your audience and looking at how you can help them with whatever they're looking for, then you will most likely just be evolving with them at the same time.
Yeah.
And and that's why, when people come out with a small business and thinking like, oh yes, I need to get everything perfect before I launch my business. Like, there's no need to, like, get an MVP out there, right? I think you must have had this before as well. And because you will learn from your audience what they really need, and you just keep tweaking your offers as you go along, and that's completely fine. The main thing is to know what you stand for, like get the core, get the foundation right, know how you're different to other people, and the messaging that goes to communicate that, the visuals and everything that goes to communicate that, all the little details, etc. Sometimes you do find out along the way, actually, I don't want to serve this kind of people. I do want to change it to this very particular niche. And that's another thing. As you niche more and more, and that's good to niche, you will find that, okay, you can tweak your branding a little bit more to really speak to that group of people, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I love how you explain it and how you kind of give real life examples with it as well to make it very easy to understand, like the house and how you build the foundation, and then you kind of update it depending on your situation, and as you said, depending on the audience as well. So I love the example. So thank you. You made it very, very clear. I'm just going to remind the listeners, and if anybody just joined us recently, we have May on the show today, who's a brand strategist and designer, and she's sharing with us how she started her first business, puppetry, from scratch when she was a new mom, besides the challenges and wins. And after selling this business, she's now back to doing branding to help more Muslim small businesses shine as the go-to. But the big goal has always been the same for her, which is to inspire new generations of young Muslims to feel a sense of belonging and to feel proud to be visible Muslims and who continue to do good and uplift the Ummah. Listeners, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, or specific questions to me, please send those to 07779 481822. So May, all the things that you've shared have been really, really amazing. I'm really interested also to learn more about that goal that you've had, which is to inspire new generations of young Muslims. How do you do this? And now that you moved into branding, how do you do this work?
Yeah, so for me, it's about, because what I see is branding has the power to change perceptions and change narratives. How I see it is, I've always had this dream of like, oh, I would love to one day like walk into a department store that's like Selfridges, but it's like all these Muslim brands. Wow. And how like you have all these brands there's so many amazing Muslim brands that are out there that's got all this, they're just operating with ihsan, and then if it's coming across as being of a certain caliber, that then you would then see like, oh, all these Muslim brands are so inspiring, or it becomes an example or role model in a way for the younger generations as well, but also for like non-Muslims to see it and think like, that's inspiring, that's awesome. And so that's all to do with branding, and that's why I see branding as being important, because brands are such a core part of our life. Even though you think like, I'm not into brands, etc., somehow it is. You go to the supermarket, you go to Waitrose or Aldi, you have a choice. You have decided what brand you're going to go for, even if it's like the, what do you call that, like the essentials or whatever. There are things that you choose because of who you are and your preferences, etc. And so what I'm hoping to do is, through branding, through helping other small businesses show up and be confident and do the good that they do, people would see Muslims in general, inshallah, as been inspiring, and seeing the beauty and grace and integrity that comes with it, and the ihsan behind it. And in terms of like how I'm doing it at the moment, so that's working with small businesses itself, but also inshallah, I'm like hoping to get more into mentoring like younger, how do I put it? No, sorry. So young Muslim creatives who are also looking into doing more branding or strategy, design, etc. And I'm also kind of like doing workshops and masterclasses. Like, even if you don't work with me, that's fine. I just want to get the message out there, because the more of us do the same thing with intention and all that, then it's like, all of us have to work together to kind of uplift the whole ummah. And I see myself helping with the branding being like a very small, like it's just starting the ripples, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I love how you just, as you said, you want to kind of like walk into Selfridge and just see all Muslim brands, right? And it reminds me of the time of the Prophet Muhammad Sallam, there was a lot of, mashallah, rich Sahabas there. And being rich and having brands is something actually that is encouraged in the Muslim society because it helps us to uplift the ummah, as you've mentioned. So it's good. And there's always, good and bad uses of everything, right? So as
Definitely.
long as we use the wealth in the right way, inshallah, and uplift the ummah together with that. With your branding, do you help? What kind of businesses do you help? Is it just new small businesses or any businesses out there, Muslim businesses?
Well, I love working with small businesses because I think this is where they might not necessarily have the help that they want or need. I mean, I've worked with like big brands like Unilever and Procter and Gamble, etc. And you like in a way, I've seen how things work, like what works, what doesn't. But I know small businesses don't always have those funds or those teams to be able to do that. Yet there are so many, like, how do I put it? There's so many, beautiful small Muslim businesses, a lot who really just want to get their products or offerings out there because they want to help make a positive difference in the world, in the community, in the ummah, etc. And I I think that's amazing, and I want to be able to be part of that journey.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of builds such a strong community when all of us are able to uplift one another. And so that's why when I said like I help visionary Muslim businesses, it's a lot of my clients tend to have that vision of wanting to be able to make a positive difference, or they have this great idea or great product, and obviously the funds go back to doing some great causes, etc. And for me, that is important. A lot of the businesses I work with as well tend to be, I feel like, I think I can work with quite a lot of different brands or like sectors, but I'm very drawn to like women built businesses, I find.
Right.
I think, that there is, and let me just add on as well, like, because I have run puppetry before, and because I love packaging, like that was my first love. That's why I went into what I did when I was 18 years old. That was like, that's what I feel like is my strongest point. And that's why this is what like I love to do more of. But at the same time, because of what I've been doing over the last few years, I find I love working with coaches and consultants as well. So so we've got that. And yeah, I would say mostly I love helping like small businesses, women build, and it could be product or coaching, consultancy, etc.
Right.
Excuse me.
And inshallah, may Allah reward you as well, and for you to get the rewards of helping the business. Because when we help somebody, we get the rewards of that action as well. So inshallah, you get all the rewards.
Inshallah.
Your intention is very clear on what you say.
Excuse me. Yes.
That's okay. So where can people find you if they want to learn more about, alhamdulillah, I'm hoping that today's interview kind of made it clear for people to understand what branding is, and certainly has helped me to understand it. If people want to know more and kind of like, benefit from what you're offering, where can they find you?
Definitely on Instagram. So I'm at studio.nooranisa. You can also hop on to my website, which I'm, forever trying to finish. It's www.strideintoyourbrilliance.com. And yeah, you can also find me on LinkedIn. It's Maylene Seah. Yeah, and Threads as well. I'm on Threads sometimes. I know that's like a new platform. So yeah, you can find me in these places.
Brilliant. And when you said websites, do you actually design websites as well, or is it?
I do. So basically, because the whole brand experience, like the whole customer journey, websites is one of those important things where when people first discover about your brand, they go and look at your website and your social media. And so that's almost like storefronts, isn't it? So yeah, this is something very important. And I find that a lot of like the work that I do with my clients, like finding out like how they should show up, it's usually, easiest to see how that looks like on a website, because it really encapsulates what a brand looks and feels like, the kind of emotions that it kind of conjures, like what kind of perception it gives people, how it positions itself in the marketplace, etc. You can get a sense of that very quickly when you go to someone's website or maybe social media. So those are definitely things I do as well.
Great, brilliant. Jazakallah khair, Maylene. I don't know where time has gone. Time has just gone so fast, and it is the end of the show.
I know.
But Jazakallah khair for being here with us today,
Thank you
and
for having me.
yeah, and for all that you've shared, the wins and the challenges and your journey. It's been amazing, and the branding as well. Listeners, thank you very much for being here with us as well. I hope you have enjoyed and benefited from this episode as much as I did. And please do stay tuned to future shows. This show takes place every Monday from 6 to 7, so please do join us. And if you are, or if you know somebody who would like to share your story on our radio show, please get in touch with us at 079 481822. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.